The Luger is a legendary pistol that rose to fame during the Great War of the 20th century. It originates from the Borchardt, the first true semi-automatic pistol and the first weapon in history with a detachable magazine. During the early portions of the 20th century, it dominated the pistol market and was adopted by countries around the world. What made it most famous, though, was its attachment to the German military during both world wars. It was a highly sought-after pistol, and some British soldiers even preferred it to their own standard-issue pistols. Its legacy didn't end after World War II, as it saw continued use in French Algiers and communist proxy wars in Africa during the decades that followed. The gun remained in Norwegian service until the 1980s, when it was finally retired, although it continued to be produced for collectors many years afterwards. The story of the Luger is a peculiar one, as it is heavily associated with the Germans, but it was actually first adopted by the Swiss, and was surprisingly considered for service by the USA and Great Britain. In the modern era, we simply call it the Luger, but contemporary users referred to it as the P-08 or P-08 to German soldiers, while the company itself referred to it as the Parabellum. The Luger name was actually popularized by US importers, and the pistols produced in the 1970s could not legally be called Lugers in the United States, as the importers still held that trademark and was using it to sell pistols of their own design. For the sake of simplicity and to fit within the modern lexicon, I'll be referring to it as the Luger for the purposes of this video. The Luger's design can be traced back to the Borchardt C93, developed by weapons designer Hugo Borchardt, who based the pistol on the Maxim toggle bolt design and focused on creating a suitable 7.62mm automatic handgun. George Luger was Borchardt's assistant on the project, and he claimed to have had a great deal of influence on its design. The C93 became the first mass-produced semi-automatic pistol, but militaries didn't think the gun was suitable enough for service. The Borchardt was a bit ahead of its time, and officials weren't ready to accept it, but Luger refined the principles of the Borchardt to create his own pistol just a few years later. The first production model was known as the Model 1900 Parabellum, and later versions included the P-08. The first Parabellum pistol was adopted by the Swiss Army in May 1900. In German Army service, it was adopted in modified form as the Pistol Model 1908 and caliber 9x19mm Parabellum. If you've been watching this series, you've likely heard me mention this cartridge several times before. George Luger is the man who invented it. Opinions of the Luger have become more critical over time, but for a large part of the 20th century, the Luger was one of the most accurate of all auto-loading pistols, particularly at long ranges, and was the choice of more nations as their military sidearm than any other contemporary pistol or revolver. The Luger became attached to popular ideas of Germans during the First World War and during the Weimar Republic over the next 2 decades. When we look back at the pistol now, we think of Nazis, and because of that it has a sinister reputation. Germany actually opted to replace the Luger with the Walther in 1938, but its reputation for toughness and accuracy followed it for generations. The pistol was also pervasive in popular culture of the late 20th century, when it appeared in numerous movies and television shows. It appeared in the famous gun jam scene in Schindler's List, was used in a standoff in Inglourious Basterds, was used against and by Indiana Jones, and was the gun that was owned by Carlson in Steinbeck's Of Mice and Men. Steinbeck purposefully chose the Luger as the weapon he wanted in the story because it was easily identifiable, and he knew people associated it with Nazis or the bad guys. Those same negative connotations were the reasons it was used in the other films listed above as well. In popular culture, when people see the P-08, they somehow already know it's a gun that is used by less than desirable people. Even those who know nothing about firearms or don't care to, for some reason, think of the Luger as an evil weapon. That reputation has followed the pistol into video games as well. One of the more memorable appearances that evokes the historical status of the pistol is in Sniper Elite. I vividly remember using it as a sidearm in Sniper Elite 4 and appreciating its higher fire rate. The in-game description reads that the high rate of fire of the German Luger is offset by the lower damage it can deal, which I think is a mostly accurate representation of it. It's a good pistol in this game, but not the best, and it's characterized by accuracy, handling, and speed, but at the sacrifice of more powerful ammunition. It can be picked up from dead German officers, and it's one of the more memorable guns from a game that captures the spirit of World War II very well. A couple of other World War appearances come in the form of Call of Duty. The Luger was featured heavily in Call of Duty 2's campaign. It does slightly less damage compared to the older CODs, but is still very fun to use. The toggle moves in front of the sights when the gun is fired, which can make aiming down the sights somewhat difficult at range. It usually kills in 3 to 4 shots and has a quick reload. If used properly, it makes a great sidearm which can be used very effectively. In multiplayer, the Luger is again the standard sidearm for the German team. It does the same amount of close range damage compared to the older versions, but it's slightly less powerful at range. It's still a good weapon of last resort, or for trying to get through tight spaces where slower firing weapons will not do the trick. It will not be so successful in other circumstances, however. It is also featured in Call of Duty World War II and is unlocked by default for all players. The P-08 possesses a 3-hit kill range up close and a 5-hit kill range from afar. The gun's long-range abilities are hindered as it has obstructive iron sights consisting of an extremely small front post framed by large rear sights. Accuracy is further hindered by the pistol's unique toggle lock action, which obstructs the view as it is fired. This view obstruction is rectified with the torch and abwehr variants, as the iron sights are no longer obstructed by the toggle lock system. The Call of Duty franchise has done perhaps the best job of showing players what it would feel like to hold one of these, so it has a special spot on this list. Another game that provides a good representation of the Luger is Wolfenstein. In single player, the Luger appears with you whenever you start the game. It has extremely good accuracy when fired and still from crouching. However, that accuracy vanishes if the user is shooting while on the move. It uses the common 9mm round, causing 6 hit points of damage per shot. In fact, it can actually take down Nazi guards pretty easily if you stay still and find some good cover. The main reason that Wolfenstein makes it in as an important game to feature the gun is its unique portrayal of Nazis and the way that it attaches the Luger to the German army. The Luger is favored by many high-ranking officers in Wehrmacht and SS as a symbol of authority in the game, and was a prized trophy for Allied soldiers, which Wolfenstein illustrates well. The next franchise to famously include the Luger is Medal of Honor. The Luger P08 is a German semi-automatic pistol featured in Medal of Honor Heroes and Medal of Honor Heroes 2 as the German sidearm of choice. The P08 Luger is the official German sidearm in Heroes. It is only usable in the last mission. It's a good sidearm, doing medium damage and having one more round than the Colt M1911. The breech toggle pops up when firing, making rapid fire annoying, but still possible. In multiplayer, if the player chooses the Axis side, they will get the P08 sidearm for their class. It is a good weapon to get yourself out of a sticky situation with a sniper rifle, and on an SMG class it can be great to use if you run out of ammo. An interesting side note is that in the latter half of the series, the Luger replaces the P-08 as the main sidearm, which is exactly the opposite case in real life, as the P-08 was actually the Luger's replacement. Next up is Battlefield 1, where the Luger is featured in all kits in the game. The P-08 pistol is also used by an Ottoman soldier in a cutscene in the war story Nothing Is Written, and its artillery variant is used by Imperial German Army, Ottoman Empire tankers, and Austro-Hungarian officers. Of the commonly available handguns, it offers average performance, matched by the C93 in many details. Though it fires slower and with somewhat lower velocity than the C93, it does inflict slightly more damage at all ranges. The Red Baron's P08 is an exclusive weapon variant available for owners of the Red Baron pack, and it's just really cool. It has slightly better damage drop-off than the standard P08, but has less control than its counterpart also. A recurring theme here is that the P08 is included in lots of war games, but it underperforms in comparison to certain other guns. This is an important part of the Luger's legacy, because it isn't known as one of the more efficient pistols in human history, yet it somehow remains relevant because of its association with Germany and the stigma attached to Nazis. I think Battlefield represents this well, and is one of the fairest depictions in all of gaming. Aside from Sniper Elite, Call of Duty, Wolfenstein, and Battlefield, the Luger has also been featured in Hitman, No One Lives Resident
Forever,
Evil,
Commando,
Forgotten Hope,
Hidden
Darkest
and
Hour,
Dangerous,
Red Orchestra,
Splinter Cell,
Company of Heroes,
Alliance of Valiant
Team
Arms,
Fortress 2,
Operation Thunderstorm,
Mercenaries,
Uncharted,
The Saboteur,
Death to Spies,
Velvet Assassin,
The Godfather,
BioShock,
Resonance of Fate,
Uber Soldier,
Deadfall Adventures,
The Great War, 1980,
Enemy Front,
Verdun,
Heroes and Generals,
Day of Infamy,
Ghost Recon,
Far Cry,
Men of War,
Necrovision,
Darkest of Days,
and The Orange Box. In conclusion, the Luger is a fascinating weapon. Except the Colt, no other handgun has excited as much interest nor supported such a vast industry. Owing to sophisticated design, high-quality manufacture, and ready availability, the Luger was greatly coveted as a souvenir of the trenches of World War I. But the reputation founded in this desirability had nothing to do with its efficiency as a weapon, its design, or its engineering. It had much more to do with its appearance and how it looks, and its association with Nazi Germany. Regardless of performance, it's a hard gun to forget. I hope you enjoyed this video on George Luger's P08. If you did, be sure to share it with every gamer you know. If you're interested in more videos on weapons and video games, be sure to recommend one in the comments below, or check out my other videos. Thanks for watching, and as always, I'll see you guys on the next one.